Shalom and welcome once again to Temple Jam. This is Yitzchak Reuven with Abba Horowitz, and we'll be jamming about temple subjects again today. That's what we do. We are speaking from Jerusalem, Israel, from the Temple Institute. If you're familiar with us, fantastic. If not, check us out. templeinstitute.org is our website. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube channel, the Temple Institute channel. We have a Twitter feed, and we have Instagram. And this particular podcasts you can find either on YouTube or on Spotify or on Deezer. I think I've covered all our...
and we're discussing Rumble.
And we're discussing Rumble.
Yes.
I think I've covered everything. And let's get right into it. We're going to be talking today about prayer, Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount.
Yes.
Which is a Baruch Hashem, a growing phenomenon, a reality, which it should have been a reality for a long time now, for at least 54 years. That's when the Temple Mount was liberated in 1967. But for those of you who know the history, we won't go into it. For those who don't, maybe we'll just give a real short summary. But again, the Jewish prayer has returned to the Temple Mount, and right now we have a government minister of internal security who is very hostile to the idea of Jewish prayer for more than one reason. We'll talk about that. And so he is, I think, trying to make it a little bit more difficult. But I think, as we say, the horse has already left the stable. I don't think he's going to be able to turn the clock back on this one. The Jewish prayer, I think, is here to stay on the Temple Mount, and just growing all the time.
I certainly, I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to actually pray on the Temple Mount on Rosh Hashanah.
Wow, nice.
And second day, and we prayed Shacharit, the morning prayer, and then we did Musaf outside of Harabayit, outside the Temple Mount, right outside actually. But it was a wonderful experience. It was a unique experience, and there was a guy there davening, and I'm sure the person praying, you understand that the prayers on Rosh Hashanah are complicated.
Right.
It's not your everyday prayers that you know by heart. And they don't let you have books on the Temple Mount.
Right, and of course it was a holiday, so you couldn't bring your phone.
It's a difficult Shmona Esrei to remember, which is the main part of the prayer there. It's a very hard part to remember. And the guy davening was actually Aryeh Lipo, who's a very well-known guy within the Temple.
He was in the news recently because he was given a restraining order, I guess you call it in English, for praying on the Temple.
So
Mount.
I was with him actually. On Rosh Hashanah, not when he got that restraining order, but I was with him on Rosh Hashanah, and he was the chazan. So he was the
prayer
cantor,
leader,
the person leading the prayers. And so there was one rabbi there who was next to him, who everyone's trying to remember the exact prayers of Rosh Hashanah. It's just very hard to remember. And there was one rabbi there trying to coax him on, trying to remember words. And then Aryeh Lipo takes out a piece of paper and just starts reading from it. And he's getting, thank God he's getting away with it.
Right.
Why are you getting away with it, right? It's ridiculous. It's freedom of prayer. But we won't get there. We're going to get there soon, but not right this second. And so at some point, one of the policemen, and here's the thing, and I need to point this out, and I don't care what people will say, because I think it's important to say.
Okay, I guess we're a warning, politically correct, unpolitically correct, or
this
politically
may not
incorrect.
Be woke,
and if you were gonna, I know in America there, what do they call them?
Woke.
Woke, and there's cupcake. I don't know what they call them.
I don't know what
people
we
who
call it anymore.
have to get to their
you
safe room.
guys are all nuts. Okay.
If you have a weak heart, you might not want to. You might want to turn this out.
It's just very simple, and it makes sense.
It's
the policeman who came over to Aryeh Lipo was an Arab. Okay, there's two types of cops on Harabayit, two types of policemen. One is a Jew, and the other one is an Arab.
Right.
Okay, he understands, this Arab cop, that the Temple Mount is very important to his people, and to the exclusion of the Jews. And he will use that authority that he has, usurp it on a certain level, and try and stop Jews from praying. And that's just the story, whether you like it or not.
I will add to that, that there are also Jewish police up there, and sometimes they're wearing a kippah, and they also will try to, they may be a little more empathetic, but they'll also, if had enough time, move on.
Push us through. That's true. Okay, that's true. Anyway, that's not even important.
Right.
The point part is that, and then he says, what are those papers? And Aryeh had to put it in his pockets. He's in the middle of Shemona Esrei. He's in the middle of praying. He's not allowed to stop and turn to the police officer and respond to him. So he just pushes away the police officer with his hand,
Uh-huh.
like go away.
Right.
And then we were able to complete it, thank God.
Mhm.
And but it just gives you an idea why can't a Jew pray
Yeah.
and out loud and bow
Right. Exactly.
in
And
public
and again,
on the Temple
this-
Mount?
and what you're describing, which is basically, it's a violation of our freedom of worship, freedom of access, all these things, which are not only, I would say, universal laws, but they are actually laws in the Israeli, law code. I mean, they're written laws in Israel, and this is after years of progress. Like 5 years ago, if you had moved your lips, or without anything coming out of
Or
them,
if you shook.
or you shook, or you stood still, even looking like you were deep in prayer,
Yeah.
they would have taken you off the Temple Mount. So he made tremendous progress, but still, it's an absurd situation. I just wanted to give a very, very, very quick background. In 67, Israel liberated the Temple Mount in the Six-Day War, and immediately after, Moshe Dayan, who I think was the Minister of Defense for that
That's
government, he
That's
said he gave the keys back over to the Waqf. The Waqf is the Muslim endowment or something that was in charge of the Temple Mount and all the Muslim facilities there until
Religious,
67, right.
right.
And he gave it all back to them. And he's quoted as saying, "Who needs this Vatican?" Meaning, who needs this religious, complex? You can interpret it two ways. One, who needs to, have this running conflict or tension with the Muslims? And that's the excuse they use to this day why Jews shouldn't pray there, because it's going to offend the Muslims, which is absurd, which is totally absurd. But I think the real reason who needs this Vatican is, as a secular and a radically secular Jew, it's like, who needs this religious focal point?
So he was very ignorant.
He was very ignorant.
And he actually did not know historically that there were two temples on the Temple Mount.
Are you saying
He had grown up in a very, very
Whoa.
secular kibbutz
Yeah.
where they taught nothing about Jewish
So
history.
he really did not know what is
Yes.
significant. And I'm sure that Rav Goren, who was the IDF, the army chaplain, whatever, chief rabbi, I'm sure he must have said to him, like,
No, so he did it without the knowledge of Rav Goren.
So this
And that's
is
why Rav Goren actually talks about it in his book. That's why he knew they were going to give Hebron to the Arabs too. Hebron back. Not back, it's always ours, right? Abraham lived in
Right.
Hebron, like, it's ours. He buried Sarah there,
Right.
right? And Yitzchak and Yaakov, etc. And Yitzchak and
All
Yitzchak and
there, yeah.
Yaakov. Anyway, the point being is Rav Goren didn't know about it. And that's why he said that when it came to Hebron, he went ahead of everybody.
Uh-huh.
Because he wasn't going to let that happen
Right.
again. He wanted to keep the Marat Machpelah, the cave of the patriarchs. And he knew, just like they gave it away without his knowledge.
right.
the
So I
first
would,
time.
this is a tragedy. I'd say, almost maybe on the level of the spies. I mean, it's such a horrible, horrible
Yeah.
tragedy that was totally avoidable.
Yes.
It didn't have to be that way. But because of that, they created what they refer to this day as the status quo, which means no Jewish prayer on the Temple Mount whatsoever, no Jewish religious objects, no Jewish identification, or even Israeli. You can't bring an Israeli flag up. People do, whatever. You see sometimes, and they get stopped. So this is the situation today. Now, in terms of status quo, from the Muslim side, there is no status quo. They've been gutting areas, destroying temple artifacts, and creating new mosques on the mount. They are usurping that Temple Mount day by day, and the Israeli government is sheepish, and they've been so, everyone, one after the other. Now, it was, I guess, I don't know, we've had so many governments lately. It was a few governments ago when Gilad Erdan was the Minister of Internal Security. He was the one who changed the direction as far as the Jews are concerned and made it much more welcoming. The police are much more welcoming today than ever. When it
Still,
comes to the Temple Mount.
I wouldn't give them,
I know, I agree with you.
gold
It's-
stars here.
You're right.
Yeah.
But compared to what it was, it's a totally different situation. And we have our foot in the door. I mean, we are praying in the Temple Mount. They don't like it. They make it difficult. This current Minister of Security is, dead set against it. But
Yeah. Once again, I think it's because he too is very, very secular and doesn't understand the significance of the Jewish people's holiest place. as if you really cared about your Judaism, and this is what I'm going to say about him. He's not really a Jew because he doesn't know what it means to be Jewish, this minister of internal defense or whatever it's called.
And again,
he just doesn't know anything about his Jewish history, and he doesn't care.
Right. And as far as he's concerned, and I think as far as many of these government people have been concerned, this Temple Mount is a headache. It's just a headache and a potential, catastrophe. And that's how it's always described in the media. The powder keg, the most tense.
World War III.
Right. And I can tell you, and Abba can tell you from experience, 6 out of 7 days of the week, well, we were only allowed to go up 5 days. I say 5 out of 7, there's very few Muslims up there to begin with. And, and except when there was a time a few years back where the Muslim Islamic movement in Israel was actually paying men and women and busing them to the Temple Mount in order to harass Jews physically and verbally. They've been outlawed since. Since they've been outlawed.
It was quite a good salary they were paying. It was like 5,000 shekels or something like that.
And since they've been outlawed, it's quiet. It's a 37-acre plaza on the Temple Mount. There is the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is in the southern corner of the Temple Mount. There's no reason for any tension, and any intelligent management of the Temple Mount can make it accessible for, all people of all faiths to go up there and pray to God. There's no reason in the world why it can't happen. I mean, it happens. There's an arrangement in the Machpelah Cave in Hebron, which is a much smaller enclosed area, which not everybody loves that arrangement, but there's an arrangement, and Jews and Muslims pray there. So it's just, they don't want to deal with it. And every time their excuse is, we don't want to upset the Muslims. And every time they say that, every time it gives the Muslims almost an obligation to become upset. It's like an invitation. Oh, you tell me I can make things more difficult for Israel and for the Jews that are praying in the Temple Mount. So let's do it. Let's have a riot. And then they can, and this is, it's the scenario year after year after year.
I think what really bothers me, Yitzchak, is the fact that these rights that we have, God-given rights to pray to our God on our holiest place, has been taken away from us.
Right, by our own government,
by our own government, which, shame on them, are Jews.
Right.
So Jews don't respect their holiest place and forbid their own people to pray on what is unanimously known as the Jewish people's holiest place.
Right.
So how terrible is that? That's shameful.
That's pretty bad.
Inexcusable.
That's
very breaking
bad.
Literally not just my human rights, not just my rights as a citizen, but my rights as a Jew in the Jewish homeland are being broken daily by the government, by government ministers, who, by the way, in last week's newspaper, Mekor Rishon, Arnon Segel, who's a big activist in Harabait, he actually wrote a series of comments and remarks by different politicians, how they back freedom of religion and prayer for all religions in Israel.
They love to say
and
it.
And he had about 30 of them.
Yes, it's something we're very proud of.
And then, very proud, but I can't go pray freely on Harabait on the Temple Mount, and neither can you.
There's one place...
If you bow down on the Temple Mount, one of two scenarios can happen. Either they'll just say "Ata mu'ukav," which means is now you're being detained and you have to go outside the Temple Mount and go to the police station and then go to court.
They take hours.
It's literally your whole day's over. Okay, it's ruined, and that's one scenario. Or if you bow down, they may literally beat you and pull you out.
Right.
If you have long side curls, long peyot, they'll probably beat you and take you out, and who knows what they'll do with you. And that's for bowing down to God, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on His holiest place.
Right. I mean, it's really absurd and it's really offensive, and it's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable, which is why we're fighting it, and we're fighting it patiently and persistently. And again, that's why numbers make all the difference here. I mean, we don't like to quantify things. Like if one Jew wants to pray in a Temple Mount, that should be enough.
Right.
But in terms of this, struggle to change the status quo, it's a matter of numbers, which is why you see on Facebook and stuff, every week, I'll talk about the numbers. Numbers are going up. More and more Jews are up there. it's not a game. It's part of the battle of changing the status quo. They're changing the reality.
100%.
Changing how the police get their orders from the government.
Correct.
And
And we also don't know, we have a very weak prime minister, terrible prime minister who maybe one of the worst prime ministers Israel's ever had.
Yeah, he's not even. I call him an acting prime minister because he's not really a prime minister.
He gets a phone call from Jordan, he's going to quake in his boots,
Right.
and he's going to do, okay, no problem.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot to do with that as well, is Jordan almost telling us what to do.
Yes,
right?
this has been, again, we have a peace treaty with Jordan. We signed in 1993 or 4. And in that treaty, and you can look it up on the Israeli-Jordan peace treaty, look it on Google, it's in English. I forget, it's Article 7 or 8 or 9 or something, and it says, both sides will work to guarantee freedom of religion for all monotheistic faiths
Yes.
on holy sites in Jerusalem. So, where is that? Why do we allow Jordan to violate that? Why do we go along with that? I don't
Where's
really
the
don't
Jewish
get it.
pride?
Where's the Jewish pride, and where's the intelligent, statesmanship, diplomacy, politics? I mean, when we're strong, we're respected.
Correct.
When we assert ourselves, we're respected. Muslims, if Jews are here as proud Jews, they respect that. If Jews are here because, so we can go to the drink coffee in a Beit Cafe in a coffee house and go to the beach, that doesn't mean anything. That's why are you here?
Right.
Like when we're here for the right reasons, which is because God wants us to be here, and we're honoring that by praying to God in the Temple Mount, we get respect. You get respect. Believe me, they may hate you, but they respect you.
It's like, imagine you told a Jew in America
Right.
that he couldn't pray in a certain place.
A synagogue.
Okay? Just imagine you said that to a Jew in America or any other democratic
He'd be
country
enraged.
outside of Israel.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have human rights lawyers, you'd have
Yeah.
big court cases. It'd be huge,
Mhm.
right? And no one could hide from it. They'd actually have to deal with it immediately.
Right.
Freedom and liberty,
Right.
Those are the beautiful words of America that they actually stand behind so far. I wish we had that in Israel, freedom and liberty.
So again, about 2 weeks ago, there was this Aryeh Lippo. He appealed his arrest or his restraining order
For
and
praying.
for praying, and he went before a judge, and it actually was on video, the whole incident. And he told the judge that he goes up every day and he prays in this spot every day. And the judge saw the video, and the judge said, "Well, and the police, well, his praying there upsets people, which is why
Right.
we had to stop him." And she said, "I see that nobody's upset."
But once I stop
Yeah.
for a second.
Okay.
Let's go over those words. His praying upsets people.
Right. Upsets Muslims.
How could praying
Right, exactly.
upset anybody?
I know. I say that every time. Like,
We just accept it now, right? But
I know.
the
I know.
actual claim is ludicrous.
It's ludicrous. And she looks at the video and she says, "I see he's not upsetting anybody. Nobody is there to be upset." And he says he goes up every day. It's something he does every day. It's important to him. So, he's his right to do it. Now, what she didn't say, which is the caveat that every judge up to this point has ever said, even in the Supreme Court in Israel, is, but if the police feel there's a security risk, they can stop it, which gives the carte blanche to the police. They can do whatever they want about security risk. We're in a Temple Mount, security risk. So that's their excuse for stopping Jewish prayer or any kind of Jewish identification on a Temple Mount.
And let's stop there for a second.
So, but because she didn't say that, it was
Security risk.
Well,
Oh,
hold
wow.
on, just
Okay.
before.
No worries,
You
no
can see
worries.
we're getting excited here. Again. This is a hot subject for us. Because she didn't say that, it was a precedent-setting judgment. Because she didn't give that option to the police. And this is why 2 days later, I think it's 1 day later, this Omer Bar-Lev, the security minister, appealed the case. I don't know how you can appeal again, I don't think in America you could appeal a case like that. Anybody? I know in America, if you're found innocent, they can't appeal the case. I had a son who was in a demonstration many years ago, and he was accused of throwing a rock at a policeman. They took him to court, and they had no evidence, and they had nothing, and the police and the judge was furious with the police for wasting his time, and he threw it out. And the police appealed, even knowing that it's going to cost me a lot of money and time, and we're going to go to the appeals court, and it was 5 minutes. And my lawyer said, They got nothing. Like this is just they're just doing this to harass you. So this is a twist of the legal system here in Israel, which you don't have in America. I don't know about other countries, but anyway, so the Minister of Security appeals this case because he doesn't want to have to deal with it. He just wants things to be the way he wants them to be. And he, I'm sure, has no understanding of the reality in the Temple Mount. He doesn't know that Jews are. I mean, he thinks that Jews don't pray there. I don't know what. He thought this was like a one-time violation.
Right, he's ignorant. He's
very ignorant. He doesn't give a damn.
Yeah. I'd even say like this, there's many rabbis out there that are against going up to the Temple Mount. And when you actually speak to them, you realize they actually don't know the facts.
Right.
They're actually ignorant of what's actually going on in terms of reality on the Temple Mount.
Right.
And I think this guy too, Omer Bar-Lev, he's just completely ignorant of the holiness of the Temple Mount, what it means to the Jewish people. Right. And he can't be bothered with it. He's got other things that he needs to take care of, and he can't be bothered.
Right, and this is, one other headache that he doesn't need.
Right.
And again, a lot of people
I get that, actually. I actually understand that. If you're not religiously connected at all to the Temple Mount, and you look at this, you say, look at these people, they're a headache to us.
Right.
Let's just shut it all down as much as we can.
And again, there are people who, believe, are very convinced that any wrong move, I'm putting that in quotes, wrong move on the Temple Mount will lead to some kind of conflagration here, some kind of, and they use it. The Palestinians use the Temple Mount as an excuse. So they're working together almost. The Israeli government with their statements. You can't do it because it's going to upset people. It's a perfect opening, a perfect invitation for Hamas, who is all the time saying, they're praying on the Temple Mount, we're going to stop it. And the Waqf, you see on Facebook, if you follow us on Facebook, I post a lot of things about the Temple Mount on Facebook, about Jews in the Temple Mount. This is why, because the more people that are aware of the situation, and it's better. And also, and you see lots of times I post photos that the Waqf took of Jews in the Temple Mount, usually from a distance and kind of grainy, but because they're always filming us and always taking pictures, they're monitoring us, they keep account of how many Jews are up there, and the Waqf is dead set against Jewish presence on the Mount, and I really have to give credit, to the change that has taken place. Under the auspices.
I don't. Because when your expectations are so low, yes.
Yeah, okay.
You're saying, we see
change. But you know what? But Abba, we're in a
Yeah.
position now. People who go up to the Temple Mount, as far as I see, at this current moment in our history, with this current government that we have,
Right.
which, you only briefly mentioned how horrific it is.
Horrific.
That the only really active vanguard, Zionist vanguard toward pushing Israel forward to, realizing the dream of Jews for thousands of years, the dream of Zionism even, are the people that go up to the Temple Mount. We're the only.
I'm not
only
taking
ones,
that away from
I know,
them.
we're the only ones pushing the envelope forward.
I get that. I'm not. God forbid.
No,
I'm one of those crazy people that goes up for 16 years now.
I got to tell you something.
Yeah.
Though. I get why you're saying you're one of those crazy people, because it's it's a source of pride. But we're not crazy, and again, that's another thing.
Okay,
they like to call us extremists, and the Muslim, the Arab.
The reason
press,
I say crazy, let me
I
clarify.
know. Yeah, okay.
Is because that's what everyone calls
right,
me.
I know.
So it was like in air quotes.
It's
more of an air
It's an in
quotes.
joke, but
Yes.
again, part of the thing is that if 5 people go up to the Temple Mount, you can call them extremists and get away with it, right?
Right.
Because it's only 5 people out of millions. But when hundreds of people are going up each day, it's a little more difficult to get away with calling them extremists. And again, another reason why I post so many pictures. Every Sunday I post pictures from the week before, and sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 50 pictures. Why do I post them all? Because you see so many different kinds of Jews up there. People with different, men, women, children, elderly people, people who are ultra-Orthodox, people who aren't Orthodox at all up there, and you can't categorize them.
But there is a sense of unity.
There's total sense of unity. And again, another thing I want to address, which I think is very important, the temple, the Mikdash, it was never meant to be a place for religious people, as we, as the term's used today. It's a place of worship to Hashem, which is something that everybody everybody is invited. You don't have to be religious to want to be in God's presence on the
Well,
Temple
that's a good
Mount.
point. They didn't have a guard at the gate wondering if you actually were religious or not.
Right. It's not a
Anybody
religious
who wanted
issue.
to walk in could walk in and pray to
And,
God.
and anybody can. Any Jew is invited
There
to
was
pray.
no green pass.
There's no green pass. There's no purple pass. In fact, there was this concept during the holidays when, especially Passover, when everybody would go, and everybody, needs to be purified. And you'll fine-tune me on this, because I'm sure you know better what I'm about to say, that they wouldn't, they wouldn't investigate every person going up there. They would make an assumption that, that we're all in it together.
Yeah, I even say more. There's the rabbis rendered that even the Amaratzim, the ignorant people that most likely were not, did not become clean, spiritually cleansed correctly, but still there was no tuma, there was no law of uncleanliness that would render something unclean in Jerusalem during the Chag.
Mm-hmm, right.
In other words, they wanted to make everything pure, and they just said it just doesn't exist.
Right, you're all
which
welcome.
Which is a wild idea.
Yeah.
And also one of the Sa'ir Chatat, the
sin offering
of the Sa'ir, of the male goat. That was brought on Chag,
on holidays,
was to forgive those that went up to the Temple Mount in an unclean way.
Mm-hmm.
So we see as there was an expectation. God had this expectation, from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Man's not perfect.
Right, exactly. Man's not perfect. God should know He created us, and we've been giving Him trouble ever since He created us.
Exactly.
And the Temple Mount is a place. It's a place to get together with your fellow human beings and with God. And, there's nothing more beautiful than that. There's nothing more wonderful. And I always say, what are everybody so afraid about Jewish prayer? What's the big threat? The Muslims pray in the Temple Mount. God knows what they're praying for. Probably some stuff that I would not, like to happen. But it's their prayer. What are they? I could care less. It's their prayer.
Right. So I think when it comes to our own people, like this guy who's the Omer Bar-Lev, I think his name is. Just so you should know, side note is this guy's father had a position in the Yom Kippur War that was a disaster.
Yes, that is true.
So somehow the son has carried on the legacy of the father. Anyway, I'm being a little bit too harif today. I apologize, but
that's good. That's okay.
So I think the point is that a lot of these people, God is not a part of their lives. They never actually have thought about God.
Right.
Okay? Like this guy Omer Bar-Lev. A lot of these very secular Israeli Jews, when you ask them, do you believe in God? They've never actually addressed that issue in their entire life. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what God is, and you've never even connected in one form or another to God, and you've never even addressed the issue in your life,
right?
Why would you be sensitive to what goes on the Temple Mount, to your own Jewish people?
Right.
Arabs to him, the Muslims to him, is just this foreign weird thing. That's what they do. We have to give in to them.
Right.
Oh, I'm a Jew. I don't have anything to do with God. Why do these wackos going on to the Temple Mount and praying?
Yeah. It's a problem. And again, the solution, not only people going up to the Temple Mount and praying and risking getting arrested, because, that's how we move forward.
You ever been arrested?
I haven't been arrested.
I was.
You've been arrested?
Yes, for bowing.
Mm-hmm. When I was up there last week, a guy who they arrested him. I don't know what he did. An Arab was sitting on the side, jumped up and said, "Oh, you and so the police turns around and stops the guy because an Arab jumped up and claimed he was, I don't know what. The worst he could have been doing was bowing down.
In a Jewish country, the Arab is saying Jew,
right,
and because he may be praying, and then the Israeli police of the Jewish country take him off. I just wanted to go through the whole scenario.
Right,
because it's so crazy.
Right.
It's unfathomable at this point.
Right.
It
is very crazy.
Ridiculous.
And it's so crazy that it's hard sometimes to explain it to people because they just whatever, whatever, dude, because they don't really get it. When you're up there and you see it, witness it, you come down and wow, I see what they've been telling me all this time. Again, education is one of the most important tools we have today.
Right.
We were hoping to have Tom Nasani with us today, who is again, I hate these terms because I think they're so general and stupid, but he is a, quote, secular Jew.
I don't know.
I don't know if he is or not, but again, I don't know if he is.
I don't know what a secular Jew is.
Exactly.
To me.
Well, I'm playing someone who would describe him. A third party would say he's a secular Jew, as opposed to you or me, who they would say wearing a kippah.
I got to be honest with you. My definition of secular Jew is very different. I
think. But my point is simply that he is very, very active and being very successful in bringing Jews of all different types up to the Temple Mount, including many Jews who aren't religious. Maybe that's the best, not practicing really. I don't know what. Again, I hate these generalizations, but and again, I think that's so important, because even for religious Jews, Jews who pray every day and put on a tefillin every day, they have to understand that the Temple Mount is for all Jews.
Yes.
And every Jew can go up there and have an amazing experience, and go up again and again and again, and it's not a religious secular issue at all. And those who try to create that illusion are basically just trying to divide and conquer. It's the entire Jewish people, and ultimately the world. I mean, that's the dream. A house of prayer for all nations, and it was the dream since King Solomon dedicated the first temple. He said people will come from afar and pray to Hashem here in this place. So that is, it's not a Jewish issue per se. It's not a religious issue. It's an issue that has to do with humanity. And you look around the world today. Maybe this will be my closing statement. You can follow. You look around the world today, and the world is so screwed up. There's so many problems. There's so much, discord and dissension and depression. Maybe a holy temple, or maybe just a place where everybody can go and pray right now, freely, and disemburden themselves without anybody harassing them, in a place where they know God is hearing them. Maybe that would be a real elixir, a real positive thing in the world. Why is everybody so afraid of trying it out? I don't get it. I'm going to cut us off right here. We're taking a lot of time here. We're going to break this broadcast up into a few episodes so that we don't drive you crazy. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week, and we're just going to pick this up right where we're leaving off. Thanks for being with us. Temple Jam.